Right, the minimum wage bill was signed into law by President Ramaphosa on Friday, and it's been criticized as shameful, as the shameful legalization of slave wages. The national wage bill is part of a package that includes changes to labor legislation in South Africa and will come into effect on the 1st of January next year. It's expected to benefit nearly 6 million workers who still earn less than 3,500 rand a month. We're joined now by trade union federations COSATU, of course the Parliamentary coordinator Matthew Parks, who are in support of the new legislation, and rival organisation SAFTU's General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, who is opposed to it. Let me start by asking you both a broad question. I mean, it's certainly great to have a diversity of views, particularly within the labour movement. But on the other hand, one has to ask the question, the fact that you are not speaking with one voice, is that good or bad for workers? Matthew, I'll start with you.
Sure, look, ideally we would want to see all workers united. COSATU has had a slogan since its birth 30 years ago of one federation, one country, one union, one industry. That's the ideal, but look, we live in a democracy and people have the right to different viewpoints. From us, we take our mandate from our members, from our unions, and the mandate is that we're happy with this, we must move forward, we must implement it.
What's your view, Zwelinzima?
It's the worst nightmare for workers. I usually make a joke about how workers are paying a price for what was achieved in imploding COSATU in order to fragment and weaken the trade union movement in South Africa. But the people who engineered that split, they were exactly wanted to achieve this that we're going to be debating today.
A weak labour movement means you can't get things done.
That is hardly relevant to the interest of its own members today. A divided trade union movement that can be manipulated by the narrow political interest of politicians who have no interest of workers at heart.
All right,
I think that it was a job well done.
Let's unpack then the issues. COSATU, from your point of view, I mean, this has received a lot of criticism, and if you look at the fact that we remain one of the most unequal societies in the world, this condemns millions of people into a poverty trap they can't escape from.
Look, the poverty's been there already, it's been there for decades. So I don't think we can blame the minimum wage for people's poverty, for the legacy.
This certainly isn't going to help.
Well, in the beginning you said the stats yourself, that it's going to benefit 6.4 million workers. That's 47% of the workforce. That's the most vulnerable, the most exploited workers. That's retail, hospitality, restaurant, cleansing, security, farm, domestic, a whole wide spectrum of workers. The fact that 47% of workers earn less than this 20 rand an hour shows you how badly we need it. And look, it's not a living wage, it's a different concept. It's a minimum wage below which people should not be paid. It's the basis for us then to push for higher increases, for a living wage, for a social wage.
Okay, Zwelinzima Vavi, it is a start. 6 million people, you can't argue with that number. You have to start somewhere.
When you debate policy, you've got to look at the objectives and what it seeks to achieve. What we seek to achieve in this country is articulated by the ANC and the Alliance over 100 years now. We seek to build a new country. We're seeking to bury the exploitation, in particular super exploitation of workers. We seek to liberate black people. We seek to liberate women from their
all those are lofty
oppression.
goals. Right now, the 6 million people who immediately benefit from this will not complain.
You're not asking a question as to how it happened under the so-called liberation, that 6 million will have their wages below a 3,400 rands by 2014. What liberation are you talking about? When, and I'm sorry that COSATU have now trapped itself into this notion of half a loaf is better than nothing. The reality is that the 20 rand, or those workers who will be earning 20 rand, will be living in poverty, and that 20 rand will do absolutely very little to even shake the type of inequalities that have made South Africa to be the most unequal society in the world.
On the other hand, if you keep fighting this, I mean, we talk about the high unemployment level in this country.
With that
some money is better than none at all,
with that
surely.
level of poverty wages, with that level of inequalities, South Africa now have unemployment of 37.3%, and black people have unemployment rate of over 41%. without a national minimum wage. So this thing of blackmailing us into, once you demand a decent living standards, you ought to be undermining the effort to create jobs, is proven by the reality of today to be hogwash.
Given the obscene amounts we see earned at some of the very top levels of corporate South Africa, there is an argument that says, how on earth does COSATU justify this?
Look, those are two different things. We can't say we're not going to have a minimum wage because CEOs of companies make an obscene
In other words, why aren't we sharing the pie a little bit more?
That's exactly the issue. One of the issues we've been pushing at the Network engagement is that there should be a cap in terms of how much not just people in government can earn, but people in the private sector can earn, so that you start sharing the pool, so to speak.
So your critics will say you're happy for the CEOs to earn what they earn, and yet you're not speaking for the workers at the very bottom end.
No, we're not happy with what they earn, but look, we have to first sort out the workers. We're still pushing those other campaigns, but we've got to push these workers, and it's a bit ironic that SAFTU can complain about this when its very own affiliates sign wage agreements far less than 20 Rand often. In the food sector, in the agricultural sector, even NUMSA, amongst his cleaning workers, signs this 12 Rand, 16 Rand, 14 Rand. So not sure why they're upset that it's okay there, but with us, then it's a major crime.
Mr. Vavi makes a hold on, let me come in though. Mr. Vavi makes a compelling argument that this government has had all this time to fix this, and the picture that we currently have certainly hasn't changed the picture in terms of the unemployment numbers, particularly with a transformation agenda.
Sure, no, that we'd agree, especially in the last decade. We've really had a mess up in government. The previous administration looted it to the point of collapse. The new administration under President Ramaphosa has got a hell of a job fixing it up. It's going to take us probably a decade. So that one we agree.
So more of the same is going to improve the situation how?
Well, look, we've got to move things what they have right now on the plate. We can pontificate, we can come up with abstract theories, we can philosophize, but workers need to see the wages increase right now. They've had a VAT hike, they've had electricity, water hikes, inflation, fuel levy hikes. They need to earn more money now, and this is a step forward because it's going to come into effect on the 1st of January. And half the workforce is going to benefit. That's not something we can trivialize.
Zwelinzima, Vavi, the longer you delay this thing, I mean, if this had been enacted last year, 20 Rand an hour in 2017 isn't what it is in 2018. Surely by politicking on this, you're hurting the workers.
Precisely. That's a point. We are not politicking. This is the life of millions of South African workers currently trapped in poverty wages as designed by colonialists and the apartheid masters. The 20 Rand is not taking them out, more so on the confession.
So then why, as Matthew says, your affiliates are accepting lower rates? Why are you unhappy with this?
Again, I have listened to him repeatedly telling this lie. It's like NUMSA goes around and say, we want to sign. This near 20 Rand an hour that is making an example of how we happily sign gets signed after weeks and weeks of hard struggles by the garage workers, and eventually
but bottom line, you've
the bottom
accepted
line
it.
is
Your
that
affiliates have accepted
precisely
it.
Because of many
so this helps you.
Hold on. Because of many factors that we have no time to talk to now, workers end up agreeing to just above 20 or more than 20 Rands,
this, and
not because they want to,
sure,
but
whatever
because
the reasons,
they simply do not have the power.
So whatever the reasons that have led them to agree, whatever reasons for which they may have agreed, this at least makes it easier. This improves the situation.
No, it doesn't. The 20 Rand is not even on the table as we speak. This was an agreement signed 2 years ago. After that, we have been hit by a 7% increase of VAT. We have been increased by a 6 to 10% increases on the so-called sin taxes. The petrol prices have gone out of hand. Workers' wages have been wiped out, not only the 20 Rand, but across the board and across the economy. Shame on those who have agreed to sign an agreement that they will implement only on the 1st of January, that exclude farm workers, exclude domestic workers, exclude the workers employed by the extended public works program.
Let me ask you this. Aren't you guys just spoilers? I mean, you've lost a seat at the table. You no longer have the direct influence. No,
Bogad, you are unfair. We have been locked out of Nedlec by them. They have continued to sign deals behind the backs of the majority of workers.
So because you're not there,
they demonstrated on the 25th of April in terms of where the majority of workers are in relation to this thing in total rejection. They must organize a march, and you see how many people will come and support this 20 rand nonsense tomorrow or next year.
Your response to that? I mean, how compromised are you by the alliance? You'll agree to anything to demonstrate that you still have influence.
No, look, we will
ask workers to vote for the same next year.
I don't know if Zeli wants to finish.
Please respond.
Look, you can't say we've compromised because we're part of the alliance. We were amongst the first to say that the former president must go. We showed we're willing to push all the issues.
Hold on, let him finish.
I can't allow him to tell
No, you have to allow him.
Hold on. That's not true.
Mr. Vavi, I'm the one who allows.
It is just not true.
I'm the one who allows. Let him finish.
Only came to the party on that campaign.
With respect, he has to finish.
Few months before
Mr. Vavi, he has to finish. With respect, please continue.
Yeah, it's more than a few months. It's more than a year. But anyway.
So he says you don't have the numbers. You can't even get a few marches out on the streets. You've lost the influence. You are compromised by the alliance.
SAFTU's membership. But look, let's go back a little bit. SAFTU says they were locked out of NETLAC. But the agreement was settled before SAFTU was even formed. SAFTU then said they're going to apply to join us. We said, fine, this is the criteria. You should have been in existence for 2 years, have audited financial statements, audited membership figures, which is the normal Department of Labour.
Otherwise, anybody can just show up and say they want a seat at the table.
They didn't submit those. And it's ironic that Zweli is upset about that. But when he was the General Secretary of COSATU, another small federation called CONSAU applied to join. They were denied because the membership was too small. They went to court, they lost the court case. So it was all right then when Zweli was leading us. But now when he's outside, it's not okay. But look, even besides that...
No, I want to correct that misleading information. I've been watching this guy lying all the time on television. This is my opportunity today.
Are you lying?
No.
All the time.
He can dispute them if he wants. He can show us the evidence. Parliament had public hearings even. SAFTU was invited to come make a submission. In fact, SAFTU came late to the parliamentary submissions that we went to go negotiate with the ANC to give them space.
All right, we're running out of time. Final parting shot from both of you. Again, we've had this conversation. The Labour movement couldn't be more divided. I think if there's one thing you'll both agree is that that's an unfortunate turn of events. So whilst you bicker, whilst you disagree, the workers whom you both represent suffer.
Sure.
I'll start with you.
No, that would agree with you 100%. In fact, in our recent COSATU Congress in September, one of the most clear mandates from the unions across the board was that they need to unite workers. Even those who are no longer part of COSATU, we need to find engagement with them. On this issue, we worked very closely with the other two federations, FEDUSA and NACTU. In fact, we had basically a united front on minimum wage then, on the same page. But we did agree that unions like NUMSA, like FAO and others who've left, we need to engage with them to see how can we find each other.
All right, can that bridge be met? Can you meet each other halfway? Zwelinzima, Vavi?
We've written a letter in May to COSATU to say, guys, tell us what you see that makes you to be so comfortable with the status quo. And we articulated what we see, a complete disaster being visited on the lives and the material conditions of the working people in its detail. And we said, can we talk about this? Can we have a turn aside to begin a conversation about this and see whether we cannot have joint working programs? I'm happy that NUMSA and NUM are working together to reject the IPPs. I'm happy that the transport unions work together in relation to the strike. We said, can we talk about those type of possibilities?
So baby steps.
I can only hope that COSATU will come to the party, respond to the letter, set up the meeting, allow a discussion between all of the federations of this country. Otherwise, workers are in trouble. But in the meantime, we will not wait for COSATU's sweetheart deals to be applied to workers. We are taking up a campaign next year to oppose this nonsense.
All right, we'll leave it there. Hopefully you can find each other somewhere in the middle. They're still hoping for that. SAFTU, of course, General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavu and the Parliamentary Coordinator for COSATU, Matthew